A type of thing that's been the staple of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise since the beginning, but has been sort of overlooked and not talked about enough, are the blocks, which are an integral part of the experience that usually contains some sort of goodie for you to collect, or simply exists just for you to platform on. In a past video, I talked about the rarest ones that you could find, and through my research, I came up with an idea for another, where today, I want to look at the weirdest blocks that you can come across in each and every entry in the series. Oh yeah, and before we get started, my name is Copycat, and if you haven't yet, then please subscribe to my channel, hitting that bell to stay notified when I upload new videos. The very first game to be released in the mainline series is Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985. Having only one type of block I want to look at that I didn't even realize was considered a block in the coral. These are found in underwater settings, just like in real life, where this block really just acts like an obstacle that you have to swim around as you can't interact with it or even destroy it in any way, shape, or form. This means it's sort of just there to be a pretty decoration and that's it. A bit of a letdown, but understandable as this is a very early made title and I expect it to be a little bit rudimentary. Next to come out is the Western version of Super Mario Bros. 2 in 1988, having two blocks that could be considered pretty strange, beginning with the POW one. This is really more of a useful item that can be picked up and thrown that creates a sort of shockwave on screen, killing any enemy caught up in it that can get you out of some really sticky situations. Now, this isn't technically the first time this has appeared in a Mario title, as in the Mario Bros. Arcade game, it's used to flip over enemies so then they're open for an attack. And although it doesn't directly kill them there, it still essentially does the same thing. The other that I want to look at are pretty common in this entry in the mushroom blocks. Another thing that can be picked up and used as an item, here for a few different things. Firstly and most important is as a weapon that you can throw at enemies to defeat them without worrying about the thing you're throwing being destroyed. Second is a way to shield yourself from incoming attacks, which will help you out during specific boss fights, most notably the Triclide of World 2 who shoots fireballs at you. Lastly, it can just be used as a way to platform upwards, as there are certain situations where you have to place them down and then jump off them to progress upwards/forwards. The final of the original NES trilogy came out for the system in North America in 1991, also having two different blocks that I want to look at, starting with the very strange, very hidden Magic Note ones. These can be found only in select stages, and appear invisible on screen, meaning they have to be uncovered by Mario with some kind of bonk, where when you bounce off them, they then lead you to a coin heaven. Up in this sort of sub-area, you can collect a lot of coins, as well as a 1-up if you're powered up in Super Leaf form. A bit of a bonus, although it does sort of waste time if you are wanting to speedrun things. Now again, these things aren't visible, and there's no indication that they're even there, so without a guide back in the day, you either found out about them through word of mouth, or just completely by accident during your playthrough. The other I want to mention is the Mega version of the question mark blocks. Something you first come across normally in the giant lands of World 4, but later you'll find in secret spots holding equally secretive goodies. Those appearances is really where I find them weird, as these secret sub-areas are already special looking enough, so I don't think adding a gigantic question mark block changes things positively or negatively, although I could be crazy and just wrong. The first handheld game to come out that features our mustachioed hero is Super Mario Land for the Game Boy in 1989, where really there's only one block that fits the category of this video in the elevator ones. These are found very hidden in World 1-3 and 3-2, needing to be uncovered via a bonk, where riding on top of these takes you to the top of the screen, like an elevator. When you're up there, this allows you to collect the coins, as well as access the sub-area. And I'm sure this confused a lot of people back in the day, as they probably thought those areas were unreachable and didn't think to look for something invisible like this. Up next is the Dinosaur Land based Super Mario World that came out for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1991. Having a couple of blocks that do some pretty strange things, with the first being the triangular ones. These are always found at the base of a pipe or a wall that when ran at, literally allows you to run up them, getting to some places you otherwise couldn't reach. These aren't used too often, which is why they're so surprising to me whenever they do show up. Plus, they never show up again in any other entry in the franchise, so there's that as well. The other one that's definitely also weird are the bonus blocks. that when bonked either contain a single coin or a 1-up, all depending on whether or not you did something specific in the stage they're in. The result you get all depends on the amount of coins you've collected up until that point, where if you gather 30 or more, it produces the 1-up, where anything under that produces just a singular coin. The follow-up to Super Mario Land, titled Super Mario Land 2: The 6 Golden Coins, came out for the Game Boy in 1992, having 3 different blocks I think are worth showcasing, kicking things off with the arrow ones found really only in the 3rd level of the Macro Zone. These blocks act as a sort of conveyor belt where when Mario stands on them, he begins to move in whichever direction the arrow on them is pointing. Now, I do find their inclusion a bit strange as there's just normal conveyor belts found elsewhere in this game, so I don't know why Nintendo decided to make this distinction with these particular ones, but if you have any more info, let me know in the comments. Next, I want to talk about the fiery blocks, which, no, aren't on fire, and are really only called that as the only way of destroying them are via fireballs from Fire Mario. This is a bit random as there's no other time in the series where this power-up is able to do something like this, making them both special and weird. Finally, the last type of blocks I want to mention are the invisible/flashing ones, found only in the 1st and 3rd levels of the Pumpkin Zone. These don't actually physically disappear, but just visually blink in and out of existence every few seconds, making them somewhat tough to platform on, although really if you're skilled enough, you should have no issues. A sequel/prequel to Super Mario World would eventually come out, titled Yoshi's Island for the SNES in 1995, having a couple weirdish blocks I want to look at, starting with the simply named breakable blocks. Now, what's actually strange about these ones is that they're the exact same blocks that appear in an old Nintendo title named Alleyway, aka their own version of the classic Brick Breaker games, acting the same here in that they might take a few hits to destroy them depending on their color. Honestly, not only do these feel out of place, but they also look out of place. Although in the end, they do fit the different feeling this game has, so at least they make sense in that way. Also, I do want to look at the squishy blocks, which are a type of movable, moldable platform only found in a few select places in the game. These can be pushed against a wall or even ground pounded to manipulate their shape, having to figure out exactly what you need to do to them in the situation you're in to benefit you. The first game in the series to be based within the 3D realm is Super Mario 64 for the N64. Not being an entry that's super block heavy, but still contains one type I want to look at in the blue coin ones. These are really more like switches that when triggered produce a bunch of blue coins that you have the option of collecting before time runs out. Now, this isn't really a mandatory thing, as coins are really only used in this title to get the 100 coin stars in each course, where using these will help you, it's just not super necessary. The next to come out, also based in the 3D realm, is Super Mario Sunshine for the GameCube. Having just one block I want to talk about in terms of being weird, which is just the normal brick one that appears in pretty much every single Mario title ever made. Here, however, they only show up in a few of the secret course stages and appear nowhere close to being to scale. To me, seeming way too big, at least in comparison to what we're used to, or even what we see in future titles. Nintendo would return the series to its 2D platforming roots with the release of New Super Mario Bros. For the dual-screen system, having 2 distinct blocks I want to show off, with the initial being the red wing question mark ones. These move around the overworld map and appear in whichever stage they're hovering over, containing power-ups like the blue shell, goodies like 1-ups, or even super rare items like the giant turning mega mushrooms. Now, I find these sort of a cop-out, as they act sort of like a crutch to your gameplay I'm not sure you really need, but at least they do give you power-ups that are hard to find, so there is that. Also, another block I just want to quickly mention is the super rare moving question mark ones that are only found in the Ghost House of World 4. These dangle from the ceiling via spider silks, if you trigger the switch found in the room, that is, letting you collect a fire flower power-up if you bonk the right one before time runs out. Up next is the space-based Super Mario Galaxy that came out for the Wii in 2007. Having only one block weird enough to make this video in the moving ones of the Gold Leaf Galaxy. These are found on the final planet of the Star Bunnies on the Hunt mission, being flat planes of glass that have a question mark box logo on them that slide around if interacted with. Also, these then can be ground pounded to produce star bits that you can collect, not being crucial to the gameplay and seeming a bit out of place, but still cool. The second installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series will be created for the Wii in 2009, having a set of blocks that are both elusive and weird in the ghost ones found only in the World 7 Ghost House. These can only be seen by going through this door to the exit, then going through this other door below it where you're technically traveling backwards, but anyways. Where then you enter a room with a bunch of blocks, a star coin, and a switch to trigger. Once you trigger the switch, the blocks become possessed, trying to track you down and hurt you. Although if they just collide with something, including maybe yourself, they break and reveal a few coins, which isn't that much. The second of the space-based sub-series also came out for the Wii, but in this instance was released in 2010, where really the only block from it I want to show off are the snake ones, making their debut here in the 3D realm. Things also get really crazy, as in some levels that have these blocks, you even have to platform upside down, which is super trippy and kinda hard to get used to, resulting inevitably in a few deaths. You can only find these in the Boo Moon Galaxy, Bowser's Lava Lair, and Bowser's Galaxy Generator, always leading to a unique experience, even though it's an older concept. Nintendo would meld together aspects of the series' 2D and 3D realms with the creation of Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS, having one block that always seemed a bit out of place to me in the platform-based directional ones. Depending on whichever way the arrow on the block was pointing is the direction that will move when it's hit, needing to use these things to create platforms so you can grab goodies that usually would be just out of your reach. Up next is New Super Mario Bros. 2, the third game in that particular sub-series that came out for the 3DS in 2012, where the one block I want to look at from it that is also sort of a power-up is the gold blocks. When collected, this block is worn by Mario on his head, where every time you begin to run, you collect coins, until either you finish the stage, or if you're able to get the maximum whopping 100 coins from it. There's also a flying version of it that sort of acts like the wing question mark blocks, appearing in the overworld if you've earned around 200,000 points. Something I didn't realize at all, but in a game where coin collecting is super easy, it doesn't really matter anyways. The final of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series came out for the Wii U, then was later re-released on deluxe version for the Switch, where the first type of blocks that I want to look at are the magical ones that appear during the Kamek boss battle of the Slide Lift Tower. There are two types of these that react really differently when hit with Kamek's magic, where the ones on the ground turn into donut blocks, and the ones in midair disappear, and if there's an enemy inside of them, they get released and now try to attack you. This is a good idea for a boss fight as it adds some risk, something that this game actually does well, as it's a lot harder than most other entries in the series. I also want to briefly mention the glow blocks found in the Light Blocks Dark Tower stage, which in my opinion are sort of useless that just come across as gimmicky more than anything else. Now the objective here is to trigger the switch so it illuminates every block in the stage for a short period of time, allowing you to move forward. And even though it is dark, there's just not that much risk in this stage to begin with, so these just don't turn into that big of a deal. Next, we're going to look at Super Mario 3D World that initially came out for the Wii U in 2013, having two standout blocks I need to mention, starting with the crystal ones found only in the game's underground levels. Now, I didn't realize these were meant to be their own thing, as I thought they were just supposed to be the regular old blocks, where actually they shatter and don't break like normal, as you can see. There's really nothing else worth mentioning other than their purplish color, but that doesn't change much, just making them look more crystally, I guess. Also, I feel like I need to show off the Super POW block, which is the device that you use to defeat the horde of Meowsers in the Great Tower of Bowserland stage. This is a huge thing that when Bonk sent out intense shockwaves that annihilates Bowser, which is a very interesting way of defeating this big bad. In the absolutely massive Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch, the only block I could think to show is the normal question mark ones that you find in the Metro Kingdom. All because these ones are part of the street lights and act as the crossing signal for pedestrians. Now, these residents must constantly be confused as on the screen a question mark appears, which isn't a great indicator of whether or not it's safe to cross the street. Although I will say the taxis here do move pretty slowly, so I don't think it's an issue and I don't think anyone's gotten hit. The Bowser's Fury game mode is next to come out in the series, that was released alongside the re-release of Super Mario 3D World for the Switch. Having only one block I'd say is weird in the Fury ones. As you can see, these just appear to be normal blocks with Bowser's logo plastered all over them, where actually the only way to break them is to have Fury Bowser blast them with his fire breath. This then reveals catch shines for you to collect, where there's at least one per area for you to get. Something that's a bit tedious as you have to wait until Bowser goes on a rampage for you to do this. The last game of this video, and most recent to come out in the franchise, is Super Mario Bros. Wonder for the Nintendo Switch in 2023. Debuting a really odd block in the character ones that only appear on screen visibly if you're playing as the one associated with them. These blocks are still technically there, just invisible if you aren't the right character, which is really odd. As what's the point of having this exclusive thing just to be uncovered anyways? It makes no sense. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what you thought about it, and of course subscribe to my channel. Also, if you haven't noticed, I've been uploading daily shorts here on my main channel, so just check those out and give them a like if you see them. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!